Oh, nice, neat. I'm just gonna hold on to the agenda because I don't have that third amount and I, for some reason, can't open it in Word tonight. Oh, maybe All right, I'd like to call the Albany Selectmen meeting of November 30th, 2022 to order at 5:31 PM. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to new business, approval of the November 9th Selectmen meeting minutes, including one set of non-public minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I will second. Any discussion?
No.
Call it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approval of the November 30th consent file, which consists of review and signed manifests in the amount of $170,261.56, $90,615.75, and $79,688.52 to include payroll and accounts payable for 11/16, 11/23, and 11/30. Review, discuss, and approve or deny a residential building permit for South Moat Farms LLC, map 9 lot 33. Review, discuss, and approve or deny a commercial building permit for American Tower Corp. 2209 NH Route 16, map 6 lot 53-1. Can I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent file for November 30th.
Kelly.
I second.
Any discussion? Call, no, anything? No?
No.
Okay. I'll call to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Review, discuss, and appoint Morris West from alternate planning board member to a full planning board member at the request of the planning board. So we received a
Email. I guess it was in the minutes of the meeting because Sean sent me an email.
asking the board to appoint
Northwest.
Morris West in place of Peter Carboni's resignation. He's an alternate. He's basically there at every meeting anyways, and he accepted. So I will make a motion to appoint Morris West to planning board member.
Second.
His term should expire probably the same as Peter Carboni's.
I didn't know in minutes because.
Is that Dave a full board? No? No.
Did you second?
I did.
Any discussion? No, but she's putting in the date that his term ends, yeah. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next. Review and discuss providing storage space for the planning board in the treasurer's office.
So I just sent out an email to Sean Wadsworth. They need more space for like the maps and some of the bigger plans. So I just sent out an email to Sean Wadsworth and asked him to meet me down here someday and go through the track, because there's a lot of storage in there. I'm storing a lot of stuff in there too because this is full. So like accounts payable and payroll stuff is in there. So there's room in there, but we've got to organize it better. And I also want to keep in mind the fact that I need it for storage as well, because we've outgrown the vault. And I hate to even ask her because I know she has even more stuff with elections than I do. So, So I'll meet with Sean and we'll see what we can come up with, but I think if it's plans and maps, they need to bite the bullet and buy the storage for those, and it's kind of pricey. I mean,
Is it
ranges like a small, like a 12 slot is like $176,
Oh, wow.
all the way up to like $500.
Oh, wow.
So, you know,
But
they
it
may
is a
want-
one-time purchase and they have plenty of money in their budget.
right. So, you know, if he's interested, he should buy a couple this year
Yeah.
and then put some money in and buy a couple more next year, and then
Then he's
You know,
set.
yeah, and then if it's properly
I agree.
documented and stuff, they should be able to find stuff easier.
I
So
agree.
we'll work. I'll ping him again next week because I don't think people realize how close to the end of the year we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Oopsie.
Throw an email out there. Just got a few weeks left. All right, review, discuss, and approve and sign an abatement for second issue 2022 taxes from map 3, lot 61-19 in the amount of $119.
So I don't know if you remember. Oh, that's in a second for discussion.
I second.
Discussion?
So I don't know if you remember this one, but this was kind of my mistake. So this was the one where the woman bought it in 2021, did not apply for a veteran's exemption, and didn't apply because she needed a DD 214. She
Right.
didn't even apply for the DD 214 from the VA until January of 2022. So she filed a veteran's tax credit before April of 2022, but she didn't have her DD 214, and they didn't know when they were going to get it. She didn't wind up getting it, I don't think, until June. So I brought you an abatement for $500, which was an amount equivalent to the tax credit,
Right.
never thinking that she lives in a mobile and the
Right.
taxes don't even meet the $500. So I think the first issue was $156. So what we did is you voted to rescind the original abatement for $500. I replaced it and you voted to abate $156 on the first issue. And then I wrote myself a note to abate whatever the second issue was because it would be less than $500 and it's $119 because it went down.
Mhm.
So this is the second piece of this. I think she has been in to talk to the tax collector because there were taxes due from 2021 and they're still due. And she didn't.
I gave it to her and she's gonna work on it.
Okay. All right. So she knows, because I have the letters
She knows.
explaining all of that. Like we wrote to the mom and the daughter because the daughter has the POA, and so
I stood in front of both of them and gave them the balance.
oh, they were both here. Okay. All right. I mean, I wrote letters in June and July, I think, of this year, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So yeah, I think this should wrap that up. I can kind of come full circle.
Any further discussion? Call to a vote, all in favor? Aye. Review, discuss, and approve or deny 2022 request for charitable exemption for the Mount Washington Valley Habitat for Humanity.
So they submitted the A9 and the A12 that are required for a charitable exemption, similar to what Tin Mountain does, and the Waldorf School did an educational one.
Yes.
I did send it to Jason because I always like to get his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I did notice that if you look at the A9, it says it's for 2022. They did not own that property they did not own it as of April 1st. They didn't purchase it until June.
Right.
So they would not qualify for 2022. And Jason's recommendation is that we write back and tell them, we're denying you for 2022 because you didn't qualify because you were not the owner of record. But also ask them for some more information for 2023 because that land's in current use and they will not be exempt from the change of use.
That's right.
And it's quite a bit. So they might try to leave some of it in current use, but I don't know how that's going to work depending on who holds the ownership of the back. So there's some questions there. And Jason feels like no matter what happens, not all of it will fall under the charitable exemption.
Right.
Because it's not just,
That happened
It's
with Waldorf
own-
as well.
yeah, it's own, occupy, and you own, use, and occupy, own, occupy, and use.
Yeah.
So if they build 4 houses, that's, and the road in or the driveways, that's gonna all qualify, but depending on what they do with that back acreage,
Mhm.
that may or may not qualify. So he wants more information. So I think I did a letter up for you guys. I think you saw, you probably signed it already,
Mhm.
asking for a little bit more information. We may have to ask them again because I'm assuming they'll resubmit because this one is for 2022.
Right.
And I did say that, that we strongly recommend that you refile your tax exemption request for 2023 on or before April 15th.
Yes.
So hopefully but at least we're giving them the denial on the 2022 because they just don't qualify.
I'll make a motion to deny the 2022 request for travel exemption from Mount Washington Valley Habitat for Humanity.
Second.
Discussion? Call to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Review and discuss and vote on waivers for 2022 tax deeding.
So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 properties. 9 out of 10 of them are in the trailer park. Is it called Piper Meadow?
Piper Meadow.
8 of them are on Golden Oaks Road and one's on Octa Lane. And then there's one single-family home on Brookside Avenue. Generally, you do not take these mobile homes. This has been a point of conversation for the 3 years I've been here with the board of, these are the same, generally, if you look at years of taxes unpaid, you'll see there's 2 that go back to 17. So the deed year is 19. You can deed 2 years after the lien, so 3 years from the property taxes. So 2019 is the deed year, and you have 3 of these. 2 are 17 and 2 go back to 18, and they owe all those years.
What's deed date?
The deed date was today.
Oh, today's deed date.
And then I highlighted 2 of these because Kathy, I'd like you to look. I printed the activity report. The 2 in orange actually had 2022 payments, and they were applied to 2021. And I think the law states that it's supposed to apply to the oldest unless they stipulate.
That's not true.
Okay.
The owner could come in and say, I want this applied to this, and you make them aware of what could happen. It's up to them.
Okay.
And if there's a notation on their check saying apply to this, there's
Right.
there's
I
no
just
law.
wanted to make sure that if we do decide to deed, because 2 of the ones that I'm recommending had those payments in 2022, and I just wanted to make sure that the tax collector didn't inadvertently apply it to a newer year.
Mhm.
Because I don't want to run afoul. If they wanted it applied to 2021, that's fine, but if they wanted it applied against an older year, in the case of the 2017, it wouldn't matter because it wouldn't have been enough to pay 17 and 18, let alone 19. But again, and there's actually 3 non-residential ones because I added INS Albany Realty. That one's pretty old too.
And what is it non-livable?
No, it just means that the people that own it aren't living in it.
So it's just abandoned.
Not necessarily. They might be using it on weekends, or they might even be renting it out to somebody.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily uninhabitable or not. So again, this comes from, I worked in a town where there were 3 mobile home parks, and altogether it was a third of the assessed value, and they just couldn't let it go anymore. There was one park with 192 mobiles in it, and people were buying in there and just never paying their taxes, and they were telling each other, I don't ever take it. And it had gone on for years and years. But it was a much bigger amount of money because it was a third of the assessed value. So, 40% of the unpaid taxes were attributable to these mobile home parks, and they just weren't paying. So what we did was, the first year I went there, they passed that policy and payment plan, and they entered into 11 payment plans. 9 of them paid successfully, and then they tax deeded 1 mobile home in each of the 3 parks, and they got a metal a metal guy in and they scrapped it and took it out of there. And then we got the park owners to help us too, because they don't want to lose, like one of these had a $350,000 loan for a sewer system, and they needed the 192 owners to pay their share of that loan.
Yeah.
So then the park owners started putting it in the articles of agreement and started helping the town collect the taxes. And it took 3 or 4 years, but the word got around that, oh, well, yeah, they will do something. They could take it and they can remove it. And it is pricey, and it's more money than the taxes that are owed. But the previous board thought that we might have to try that, and they did appropriate $15,000 towards tax deeding, and we encumbered that into this year. So that'll drop it.
What do we have? How much do we have?
There's $15,000 in a tax deeding legal line. And it cost me $4,300 to remove a mobile home. I'm sure it's $6,000 now.
How much to evict?
It varied because we use the town attorney, so less than $1,000. And I don't know, we were in Monadnock, so we had a whole different court system, and the judge gave them an extra 30 days, but he would order them evicted. I don't know what the court system is like up here. You know, every court is a little bit different. I mean, I think taking on 3 would be a lot,
I
but
said take them all. Evict them all.
They're all liable.
We own it.
we have to pay the park rent. I mean,
You pay the taxes and we'll sign it back over to you.
again, I'm not adverse to that. We can use the $15,000 to pay the $360 a month park rent so we had to do that. When we took one, we paid the park rent for 3 months until we could evict them. But we started the legal proceedings, and I'm gonna say that the 11 with the payment plans, that stopped the deeding. But another 11 came right in and they got their moms to give them money. Like a lot of these don't qualify for mortgages. They just can't get a mortgage on it.
No.
But you'd be surprised where, you know,
A lot of mine, the same people who bought, they passed it on to friends, and friends are living there. We've been through this forever. Remember way
Right,
back
for
in
sale
London?
signs, for sale on napkins. and-
Yeah, mostly
but
coasters.
you know, Kathy tried for years. She took them to small claims court and she would win and they'd make 2 payments and then
Yeah.
thumb their nose at
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
The
yeah.
thing is, like you said, they talk.
Yep.
And they all talk to each
Yeah.
other, so if they
Oh, they see.
kind of get word, like, you better get in there and pay your taxes, you know, they all come around.
The way the law is that whatever you don't waive, she's supposed to do a tax collector's deed for. I'm sure that if you talk to her tonight and you wanted to give another week, she would probably be amenable to that. But by law, today was the deed date. These are the ones that are left. You are required to either waive them and you have to have a reason. And the reason would be they're mobile homes and we don't really want to pay park rent.
Mhm.
Or take them, or take, like I said, I think it's a lot to do, but I think if you start with a couple 3, I think that things will happen.
So if we take them, how long do they have to get out?
So I would email the town attorney today and tell him that I need to start
Eviction?
eviction proceedings. Well, we have to deed them first, so we can't start the eviction proceeding until the deed gets, so she would prepare tax collector's deeds. They go to the registry, that takes 3 or 4 days. When we get the deeds back and we own them, then we have to start the eviction proceeding because now we're like a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
So people get hurt, things happen, they're unsafe, we need to start. So right away he would file eviction proceedings. I believe they get 90 days to answer, And then we go to court and the judge can choose to give, a lot of them will go in there and say, oh, I'm getting money for Christmas, or I'm getting money for taxes, and the judge can give them another 30 days or 60 days. But our attorney will also go in there and say, look, we're paying park rent and the clock is ticking on this. And we wound up the owners of this because these people didn't pay their taxes. This isn't a voluntary ownership. This is the remedy left to a town when people don't pay their taxes. It's the only remedy, other than you have the policy with the payment plan, which has been.
So what would it
Sorta.
take, so you have to deed every one of these?
If we choose to.
If you don't sign those waivers that I gave you, so that waives a tax deed. If she doesn't have a waiver of a tax deed, then you don't do the deed, she does. It's a tax collector's deed. So she'll execute a tax collector's deed for each one of these. And then as soon as they're filed with the registry of deeds, we are the legal owner, which means we have to put it on our property liability insurance. There's ramifications to this. And the park owner, I've had park owners waive park fees to try to work with the residents, but he doesn't have to. We owe that park rent.
So, and you think that we should do this to all of them?
So there's no saying that these are worthless.
Oh,
I mean, it's not like would automatically go in and demolish them.
Well, here's the problem. You can't sell them, because a lot of times the park owner will buy them for $1.
Right.
So, and then he'll have you evict the people and he gets better people, whatever that is, or people that can pay. But you can't do that, because the only way you can sell tax deeded property is by auction or sealed bid.
So we auction them all.
So you can't. Well, the problem though is that you need the building inspector to look at them, because if they're not safe, then you don't want to auction them off.
That's okay.
But I think that the ones that are condemnable, you should get rid of.
Right.
And let the park, once you get rid of them, then the park owner can bring
Something better in.
Yeah.
something better in, or somebody who's waiting to get in there. I don't know what he's got on the books, but
He's not losing the rental, so.
I think that we could have a building inspector, we give him, what I used to do is give my building inspector a spreadsheet and have him go out and inspect them and tell me which ones, and if he red tagged any of them, then those we scrapped and took. And then the ones
Do
that,
that before eviction or after?
after, because it's hard, like, he really needs to get in there, and
Let
we
it go
don't,
in there by himself. he'd have
and
to
we
go
don't wanna
and
get into
yeah,
this. We don't want, this is a contentious process. And for obvious reasons. And you don't want more people dealing with that than have to be. So after the eviction process, plus then he can get inside, because the other ones won't want to let him in. And
No, the health officer's good too. That's how we've always done it. Health officer, even more than code enforcement, because if it's all mold, and he can immediately condemn it
condemn it.
and not even have to deal with.
Yeah.
Code.
Yeah, I don't think we want to condemn them while other people living
The
in
building
abuse.
permit administrator knows more, and if he points it out, then the health officer would say.
So they should be together.
I'll make a motion that we deed all properties on the list.
I second.
Discussion.
How's it gonna go with the park manager? You think he'll be applicable to?
He's on the list.
We can reach out.
Yeah, I don't wanna be on the hook for rent for eternity.
Well, if we get this going, either that, or this is gonna happen every
Oh, I
single
know,
year.
I know. Right, we gotta
It
take a
does not
stand.
end.
We need to take a stand.
It does
And
not end.
we're not getting the taxes, so we're losing money anyway.
So I would caution you also that this is right before Christmas. So I think we deed them and file the deeds, and we start the eviction proceedings January 1st. Like, I'll be working with the town attorney behind the scenes, but I think we let the
Get
Christmas
the
season go
process
by.
going right away, and then,
But let the Christmas season go by before we start noticing. notify
It'll
them.
probably. be
They're gonna
by then.
know.
It'll be by then anyways.
What will be by then?
Go ahead, start
Good
dancing.
one.
I like it when you
Dancing shoes
dance.
are not-
Yeah, I mean, we'll get the deed, we should get the
Like if the
deed.
process started in January 1, boom.
Yeah.
To the court we go.
And then from that, where does,
And
Yeah.
the court
and then
process
it's,
continues to.
and that
till
can be drawn
eviction,
out for,
And then,
They'll get served by a sheriff,
okay.
just like I don't know if you've ever lived in an apartment or you've ever been a landlord, but it's the
No.
same, we have to go through the same eviction process that a landlord does, because
Okay,
we really become a landlord.
right.
Again, not voluntarily, we just become a landlord. We might become like a second landlord to the ones that are owned by other people and might be renting them out, and then we become a landlord to the ones who own, and we're starting eviction, so it's a lot, and we have to notify, like, the reason we need the town attorney to do these evictions is because not only do we have to notify the owner, but we have to notify the renter, because through no fault of their own, they're going to get evicted, because this is about something different than not paying your rent. They might be paying their rent to the owner, and the owner isn't paying his taxes, and they might know nothing about it. So we have to notify, it's kind of like having to notify the owner and the mortgage holder when you're deeding, because the mortgage holder might be willing to make it good because he has more invested in it than the owner. Same thing with this situation, where if, I'm renting Joe Smith's mobile home and he didn't pay his taxes for 6 years. I didn't know he didn't pay him for 6 years. I've been paying rent potentially every month on time, and maybe paying the park rent. And then all of a sudden I get a notice on my door that I'm going to be evicted in 90 days.
Yeah. But some of these are abandoned, you think, or they're?
No, I don't think
You
they
don't
are.
know, okay.
I think that the one that INS, I know that woman left it and it was not in very good shape.
Okay.
She got moved to elderly housing, but I don't know what he's done to it in the meantime, and I don't know if he's renting it to somebody. There's not a lot I get to know about these, because I mean, I know what you know. This is the owner of record. The mailing address is not at that place. So 2 of these are in Conway and 1 is a post office box. So that doesn't mean they don't live there or they have somebody else living there, but they don't live there.
Do they still have a chance to buy their way out of it?
Yes. So they can, so before we could do anything with it anyway, even 3 years from now, they have what's called a 90-day right of redemption. So anytime during this eviction proceeding, they can come in and pay. But once we own it, they have to pay everything.
Okay.
Plus, if they're not
That's
living in
like
it,
my base behind this whole thing. Enough.
stop paying a deed year.
Yeah.
And if it's not their residential primary place of abode, there's also a 10% of the assessment fee on that.
If they're not primary.
So essentially, this process can take a while.
I would say it'll be wrapped up one way or another in 5 or 6 months.
But we will be paying rent.
But we will be paying.
But we have the 15,000.
Right.
We have 15,000 plus, we talked about, we're gonna have 260,000 of unanticipated revenue from the sale of the tax deeded property that we could put towards this next year in the budget.
260?
185 and 75, it's 260.
I thought it had to go back to the estate anyways.
Well, I think some of the 185 will have to, because it's within the second 3 years. But I think the first, we get to keep it all because it's
It's
after
before.
it's after the second 3 years. So we deeded it 3 years ago and now we've owned it for 3 years. So that's really 6 years. Yeah, we probably will have about 100,000. And they have to pay 10%, but that's on top of it. That doesn't come off the towns.
Right. That's right.
So there's a little bit of money there too.
That should be,
Yeah.
better be enough.
Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, you've got, what, 10? And 9 of them are in the park. One is a single family home on Brookside, or it's not a single family home, it's a camp. But out of 9, probably 2 of them probably aren't fixable.
Yeah.
And you might have to scrap them but again, 2 or 3 out of 9.
Yeah.
And then if we, next summer, once they're all empty and spiffied up as much as they can be, then we can hold an auction or a sealed bid. Again, they have to be notified, they get 90 days to redeem. So some of this is gonna be overlapping so that we don't just keep buying more time.
Yeah, no.
We'll
Like,
send the
within
90
1 year,
Yeah, we'll send the 90
I would like to
day,
have this.
we can send the 90-day redemption letter at the same time we send the 90-day eviction letter. And if they don't redeem,
Yes.
then the 90 days can run concurrently. It doesn't have to run.
I don't think there's too many residents of Albany that would appreciate the fact that these people don't have to pay their taxes.
And,
I don't think it's gonna get much pushback kind of thing.
if it's, I don't have that kind of money, everybody knows they have to pay taxes when you own.
Yeah.
You're getting the bill every year, you're getting the notices.
Well, and it was, one of them is $178. If you can't pay, one is $87 for the deed year. If you couldn't pay $87, why are you waiting 3 years? Then maybe you need to put your name on an elderly housing. There's lots of reasons why people can't pay their taxes. And there's lots of good reasons.
Right.
But there's other things you can do.
Mhm.
I think the hard thing is, this breaks my heart, but I also think about all the taxpayers that have to pay their
That's right.
taxes. Whether you have cancer or
They
your
come
kid
in-
dies
they
or your
come in
spouse
with
dies.
Kelly, the $1 bills.
Yep.
They
And-
probably,
and
yeah.
then-
And if it was a single family home, we'd be taking it.
Yeah.
This isn't really fair to the rest of the taxpayers.
I
I
agree.
can't tell you how many people come in with their $1 bills to just get that paid off and.
We have a lot of people that pay throughout the year because they know they
Yeah.
can't come up with it in June and
Right.
December, so they make multiple
Yeah.
payments and have credits and.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart because there's, if it was a single family home, we would take it, and I don't think that's fair to the taxpayers that are paying who are sick and have lots of problems, like, people have lost their jobs, there's a million reasons that people have hardships. You should be also prepared that we may see them on the welfare side,
Mhm.
at which point I will involve the homeless outreach worker and see what's available. But it happens. Is that a water stain?
That is.
That's a new one.
Don't want it dripping on your head.
I think it's old. Yeah. Well, it's not today.
More
Yeah,
discussion.
I just, I'm going with what you're saying. But yeah, hopefully this doesn't affect their living circumstances this winter, because that would seem harsh. But as you said, this has been ongoing for years and years and years and years.
And we're not the only town as well.
Right. No, different towns approach it, Kathy tried the small claims court and won and tried to collect in that manner and made payment plans with them. There's a drawer full of payment plans and they make 1 or 2 payments and
There
then.
were a few who paid up and,
Yeah,
we tried.
and the payment plans we just did, there were 3 of them. 2 of them, one of them paid successfully, no problems. I didn't ever have any issues with them. One paid with a little bit of pulling teeth, and then one paid, we had to abate some, and that was a little bit more difficult. But at the end of the day, we got all 3 years, and those 3 at least are not back on the deed list. But these people have been on the deed list before.
Okay. Do you need individual motions for each
No, I'm gonna
Lot.
attach, I'll put the list in the minutes because the list is very clear. I'll do it by, address and map and lot. I mean, I don't
Put name.
no, I don't put on, I mean,
Somebody
it is
really
public.
wants to know, they can look it up.
Right, it is public
Or they can
information.
call and ask.
If they call and ask, I can't withhold it,
That's
but,
right.
I don't think it's necessary to embarrass people by putting their name in the.
Okay.
I'll do it by physical address and map and lot, and, you know, I'll attach this list, cause this is what you voted off of.
Okay. Any further discussion? Alright, I'm gonna call it to a vote. All in favor? Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
2 ayes. It's a third that abstain. You can abstain.
no, I,
Aye. 3 ayes. Oh gosh, I think. Alright. Town administrator report.
So the first thing I have is, we have talked about since, I think the new board, going from Advanced Lock and Alarm back to Pope. Advanced is in Maine, they've been fine. They're very busy, but so is Pope. And we do still use Pope for our cameras. So I got a quote on going back to Pope, and unfortunately, we have to change out all our hardware. And I guess I didn't know that when we bought the radios this summer. I think with us being so close to year end, I would ask that we budget this for next year and do it. Advanced contract should have started November 1st, and I put off paying that. I just think that with the evictions and this tax deeding and year end and all the other stuff, we might not want to bite this off.
Well, we have the 15,000 for the tax deeding,
We do.
so I'm not too worried about what we're gonna spend legal wise
Well,
or
and-
rent wise in
and I think-
December.
You and I also talked about we could move 5,000. So the quote is for
ARPA.
5150 plus $753 for monitoring, which I would have to pay because I will have no monitoring once they realize,
Okay.
which is the same amount. There's a
Right,
368 each, so what is that? 720, 736. So that's the same. It's the 5,150. I don't know when they'd be available to do it either. I didn't ask that. But we could move 5150 of paving back into Curtis's budget and use the American Recovery money for this.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean,
5,000 is a drop in the bucket for his paving, so.
yeah, and he's still got, I mean,
And he- right,
I'm sure
he
he's
still
gonna
has
buy
power
more
run.
salt and he's gonna buy more sand,
Sure.
but other than that, so far,
Yeah.
it hasn't been huge plowing yet, and we're, 3 weeks, 4 weeks away from the end of the year.
Yeah,
However you wanna do it, I mean, we might wanna just sign this agreement and then encumber the money. I don't know how the ARPA money, I think the ARPA money just lives there, I don't think,
it does.
we don't
Yeah,
have
I
it.
don't think it has to be spent till 2024 or something.
Right, so, I mean, if we're gonna earmark it for that and we sign the agreement, they might not get to us till after the first of the year.
Sure.
The problem is that if Advance says, hey, are you gonna pay us? Do we pay them all that money to monitor us for 1 or 2 months?
No.
Okay. So call Pope tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
and see how soon we can get, Okay.
Sooner, better than later.
all right, I
So
just,
I will make a motion
Yeah.
to move, what is the exact amount? $5,150 from ARPA funds to the paving budget. And then use that amount of money from ARPA to pay for the hardware for boat security.
we're moving it from the paving.
You're moving, so we spent ARPA money on the paving. Oh. So we're gonna move money back into ARPA and then use that ARPA money for the Pope hardware. Okay, gotcha. Did I say it right?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we did. Thank you.
Okay, I might have said it backwards.
Thanks for clearing it up for me.
You do
I'll
these
second
things. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Stop smiling.
Shuffleboard.
It's a lot at the end of the year.
There it is.
Because you think you have like a month, but you have like a week and a half because nobody worked Thanksgiving week. I called somebody today that was off all Thanksgiving week and all this week.
Oh, I
I'm like,
know, lucky.
who can do that? That's
I really
awesome.
want it in March after town meeting.
Yeah, it's a good time to go away.
I think everybody wants
Right
to go
before
away.
summer.
That's, oh.
Everybody wants to go away in April.
Before, spring break.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel? I think I talked to the other two before you got here. How would you feel about having nothing but, well, maybe signing checks? I'll do an agenda, call a meeting next Wednesday, maybe early at like 4:30 and just bang out an hour just on the budget.
So,
Is it the 7th?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
no, right?
Can't believe
I
it.
know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be looking to have a budget public hearing. I think the petition warrant articles are due like February 1st, so we'll be having usually we have a budget public hearing the night of that the petition articles are due. So it's getting down there.
I think I can do the 7th.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that.
I just think trying to add the budget onto a selectmen's meeting
Yeah.
is not, especially coming on to year end and what else.
Do you want to do it a little bit earlier, or can you maybe leave work earlier?
Yeah. I'll try my best.
What time's good for you?
4:30 should be fine. If I leave right
I'll
from
try
work.
to get out a
Yeah.
little bit early.
Yeah.
Can you do 4:30?
Thinking about it.
Don't you?
I mean, what about 5?
I got kids, the basketball going on now and on the shuttle bus, cause I
Could we
gotta,
meet in the middle
I
of
gotta see
5?
if,
Maybe you think.
That
yeah,
would be easier
yeah,
for me.
that's true, Kathy.
Yeah, I mean,
There's other children in the
Yeah.
house. That drive.
No, it's
That have no responsibility.
I would like 4:30 though, but
Let's try 4:30.
I'm not my own
Yeah.
boss anymore.
Let's try 4:30.
All right, let's do 4:30 next
All right.
Wednesday, the 7th. And we'll do a work session and sign checks. Good. Good.
do you need to record it? I mean, obviously there'll be minutes of it because it's a selectmen's meeting, but do you want it on camera?
No, we don't have to do it, Laura.
I mean, if she's available.
No.
Yeah, I think let's do one good work session and see where we're at.
Do you want me to try to get, so I've emailed Curtis twice and he just hasn't responded.
Okay.
Do you want me to try to get Curtis here?
I think we're gonna just leave it level funded unless he says otherwise.
Well, he increased it by 10,000 or because of salt and sand but I think we need to look at some of these budgets because if they don't spend it, even with the increases in fuel and like the planning board had some increases and the
Could you
zoning
give us an
board.
updated expenditure?
Yeah,
report?
so the budget I sent you
Yep.
is
I didn't
got
really
the,
study it.
it's got the expenditures up to date through the end of November.
Okay.
The checks I cut
Oh,
for this
okay.
week,
Oh, perfect.
it's
Okay.
right up to date.
Okay.
And I probably, unless there's something big next week, I probably won't update it again because it'll be only 1 week in December and it's kind of easier to see 11 out of 12 months as opposed to 11 out of 12 months and 1 week.
Right.
But I'll see it. I mean, if there's a lot in there next week, then I will update it again and bring you hard copies and, yeah, so that's up to date through then, and so we'll meet next Wednesday at 4:30.
This time, I'm gonna open a public hearing to review, discuss, and accept public input on the clearing the deed of the Albany Chapel. It's such an interesting history.
I didn't realize, so I read that.
You didn't, I did research years ago on it. It's really interesting.
I said
How it became-
1932.
And I just always thought we owned it and
Yeah. We kind of do with a lot of stipulations on
It's
it.
really odd.
Which is
Yeah.
weird that we've never run up against the stipulations
Yeah.
in, what, 70, 80,
It's been a
what is that?
long time.
70, 80, 90 years?
9 years,
Yeah.
thereabouts.
So
Wow.
the piece that we're talking about is that the interior of said meeting house and all furnishings therein belonging to said Chicora Sunday School Association shall remain as the same now are, except insofar as the said interior or said furnishings shall,
Sunset?
I gotta read, shall be repaired or replaced, but in no way shall such repair or replacement constitute in any way any interference with or change in the same, whereby the title of the furnishings or the interior of the said meeting house becomes so changed as in any way to embarrass or interfere with the complete enjoyment of said meeting house by the said Chicora Sunday School Associations, its successors, and assigns for religious purposes. So, on the face of it, it seems kind of upfront, but that's a big restriction. With, you know,
Sure is.
because I think the intent, from my understanding of it, and this is kind of just hearsay, but was to use it for meetings and, you know, wedding receptions. Well, if you leave that in the same condition to be a church, that might not make it quite as user friendly. And I think the important thing here, and one of the things the town attorney asked me about quieting this deed, this title, and getting more control of the building, is that would we ever deny anybody the availability to use it? And that's not what we're doing. We've let churches use the meeting room, and obviously they could use the chapel if they were interested. I just don't think it's in any shape right now to be used for
It
that.
is not.
And we are using public funds
Right.
for like a semi-private purpose, which we're not supposed to really do. So,
That's right.
you know, we did the door and we did some painting, and now the steeple needs some work, which, by the way, I have contacted the 3 people that gave us quotes, because I assume that price will be
Oh, yeah, of
significantly
course.
more
Yeah,
because
of
of
course.
materials and fuel
Of
and
course.
everything that's happened in the last 3 years.
That'd be
So-
great to get going on that this year too. Like, again, Curtis has had, I don't know how many years of getting the roads into order, plus all the ARPA money and everything else that we've gotten extra and, you know, thrown his way. Now's the time to kind of use that money we were using for him, do the steeple,
Well, we did put, I think, 14.5 into so we've been kind of putting 1,000 a year into the chapel fund, and then when we knew this was coming up and started to get some of the quotes, they increased that to 14.5 on the floor of town meeting, or 15.5. I think it was 1,000 plus 14.5 1 year. So there's a little bit of money in the chapel fund that we can use for that, but that'll be a warrant article. And again, two out of the 3 companies that gave us a written quote have contacted me and are interested in giving us an updated quote.
Perfect.
So I hope to have that for, you know, I'm just now very basically starting to look at warrant articles. But we'll have a chat about that next week too.
Yeah.
Just-
And I'm just gonna note that this hearing is required under RSA 498:4-A, which is the side press doctrine, should be noted as the statute requiring the hearing.
Yeah, it's basically just to disclose to the residents that we're trying to quiet the title. We're not.
Right.
It's not
We're
to
trying
stop
to remove the deed restrictions.
Right, and it's not to stop people from using the building, actually, it's to make it more attractive for greater use, actually.
And we're not aware of anyone still holding interest in the property
No,
as
that
the
was-
Chicora Sunday School Association.
That was interesting to see, because the town attorney has tried to find if there was
Yeah.
anybody left
Well, if
from.
you read these names, Chicora Sunday School Association, Daniel, Jen, Sarah, Jen, George Purrington, Ralph Purrington, Pearlie Purrington, Daniel Purrington, Annie Jackson, Horatio Littlefield, Ichabod Hammond, Ina Morrow, her picture's in the town hall.
Oh, yeah.
Fred Hammond, Charles Moore, Harry Moore, Willie Littlefield, Jonathan Tyler, Orrin Tyler, Oscar Moody, Nathan Brown, Ernest Brown, Ford Brown, Frank Brown, Helen Fickett, Hattie Meserve,
Alfonso Brown, Mamie Brown, John L. Brown, Sidney Brown, Richard Brown, Jesse Pennell, Harriet Hobbs, George Willie, Arthur Willie, Mary Grace Willie, William Nickerson, Mark No, Susan Purington, Laura Littlefield, Fred Littlefield, Susan Tyler, Sarah Hammond, Alva Blackie, Mary Harriman, Drusilla Sawyer, Alice Moore, and Herbert Ross, their successors, heirs, assigns, or legatees, and all others having or claiming to have any interest in or to the meeting house and lot in South Albany. Petition deeds.
Those are some cool names.
Yeah.
You don't hear those
It was
names.
Probably the whole town.
Ichabod.
Ichabod.
Cool to go through the vinyl records and
Yeah.
really amazing to
So
see
any of
the
their-
memory lines.
Oh, yeah.
Children's,
Yeah.
grandchildren still,
Children's,
can-
children's
can lay
cousins.
claim?
Oh, I don't think so.
that's what it says at the end.
Not if you
Children.
quiet this title.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what this public hearing is for.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun if like one of their like great grandchildren wanted to get married in the chapel?
That
would be
That would be
cool.
I prefer a ceremony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be cool if
Yeah,
like
that would be cool.
All right, if there's no further discussion, I will close the public hearing. I forgot what time we opened it, but we're gonna close it at 6:22.
we opened it at 6:15.
6:15 we opened it. That was fun.
Yeah.
Who seconded opening it? Was it Jen or Kelly?
No motion.
No motion open
Closed at 6:22.
And back to the flat. Jacinda Russell, the Federal Highway Administration Access Program Manager, responded to Josh McAllister's email 10/3/11/16, said she would follow up with the geotech team. So again, we're just waiting.
That was 2
That's
weeks ago.
That's a step.
Yeah,
It is
I
a
mean,
step, actually, it
it's-
is.
Honestly,
Let's call it red tape.
it's baby steps with
Yeah.
them and.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's okay because that grant's a big thing.
It sure is,
It's gonna take up some time.
Other business and board reports, planning board, we met last Monday. There was only, 3 of us present. We had I wouldn't even call it a preliminary hearing, we just discussed the possibility of a site plan review or home business or occupation. The potential business owner didn't appear. We basically just reviewed what should be done about it, and that's about it. Anybody else other?
Have we heard back from, the request for a speed survey
Oh.
from the state? Nothing, huh?
Do you want me to ping Josh and find out? I sent a letter to William Lambert, which
Yeah.
is what we had to do.
Right.
I did ping Josh up today about the postcards just to make sure they were starting to come in from the tax bills going on. And he said, yes, and he thanked us for
Good.
pushing that forward.
Good.
So I think I'll ping him first and see who I should call, because I doubt if I'll get through to Bill Lambert, but I'll start with Jason Ayotte because he's our guy, and just see, because I copied them on the letter, they asked to be copied on it, so.
Right.
Because for all I know, it's being done and we
Yeah.
just aren't in the loop.
Right, well, I noticed strips down at the intersection, but nothing on our road, but they had strips on 16 and on 113 for, I don't know if it's traffic count or speed, probably traffic count down there, but I don't know if they're just considering that project, and it has been on their radar all along. I did hear
At
from,
least if we show interest,
yeah,
they know that we're waiting for them.
I know that the TAC, I can't think of his name, the guy from TAC, he emailed me.
Nick?
Nick emailed and said that he came up and looked at all the problems that we spoke about at our meeting.
Oh,
So
good.
he personally drove the road and
Well,
looked at
that's
everything.
nice.
Yeah, so there are eyes on what's going on.
Excellent.
I just wonder about that speed. And the other thing, do we want to invite the sheriff or one of his deputies in to speak?
Sure.
Do do you want to do that for the budget work session next week, or do you want to do it for a selectmen's meeting? So on the 14th, you also have a public hearing for the Carroll County Broadband Committee's Communication District. Shouldn't be long, but they're gonna show up, so, if we plan on doing that at 6-ish, do you want me to have the sheriff come in before? Okay,
Yeah, we'll be quick. with
He's
it.
not gonna take that.
5:45? Yeah, I am not getting many takers on the December meetings. I tried to get Jim Innes in here, because he had asked to see you guys before the end of the year, and he was not a taker for 12/14 or 12/28, so. So I have to look at RSA 91A3, but I think you can have the conversation with him in non-public session, because it has to do with safety and how patrols will be, and they won't talk about that in public for obvious reasons. Their safety as well as
Absolutely.
ours, so, let me see if he's available on the 14th at 5:45, but you may have to do a non-public session if you want to get into the nitty-gritty with him about patrols.
Okay.
Okay.
Correspondence, Carroll County Delegation meeting notice, regarding their county budget, CRS and TANs. Very exciting stuff. Public comment, we don't have our art gallery here.
I missed her when she's not
I
here.
know.
Still celebrating the election, I think.
I know.
Happy Dorothy.
Non-public session, I take it there is none tonight?
Nope.
And the next meeting will be December 7th at 4:30 here for a work session and signing of checks. And then the following meeting after that will be December 14th at 5:30. I will make a motion to adjourn at 6:27 PM.
I second.
You third?
My third.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Boy, there's no lack of takers on the adjournments.
No, that's how it always is.
That's D.